Here we go. I tried this one time a long time ago, and for some reason it didn't work. But what I'm going to attempt to do in this, if it becomes a series, if it does, whatever, is somehow communicate to my yet to be born child. The first time I tried this, the child didn't even exist. There wasn't even a potential child. But now there is. I am married and my wife is pregnant with our child. And it's amazing. It's been an adventure and a rocky one, mostly personal. And so I guess I just want to talk to this camera as if it was my child. I'll be saying mine right now because I'm the only one here. But whenever I say mine, you can assume I'm referring. I also understand that it's my wife's child too. I don't know what exactly I'm going to say. I don't know why I'm doing this. I just know that I tried it once and it impacted me in a way that I couldn't get it out of my mind, and so I want to just continue doing it. Maybe my child will eventually see this. Maybe he or she won't. When I say he or she, because I still don't know the sex. Apparently, it's we can know the sex of it, and we tried once, but its legs were closed tight. It was kind of funny. The doctor's like, "Oh, sorry. It appears it doesn't want us to know what sex it is yet." It was cute. It's still the size of an avocado, might be bigger. Last time I heard it was an avocado size. But I mean, anyone who knows, around the time you can know its sex, that's generally speaking, there's a ballpark size that it is. And that was about a week ago. My wife just barely entered the second trimester, but I like the way the Japanese say it. We're in Japan, by the way, and we're going to have the baby in Japan and raise the baby to a certain age in Japan, but we're going to eventually probably go back to the United States where most of our family lives. Well, all my family, the United States and Canada is where all my family lives. My wife's family lives, half of it in the United States and half of it here in Japan. But the immediate family is in the United States, and so we want the child to have exposure to grandparents and cousins as soon as possible. Well, I guess when it starts the process of socialization, which is, it's always socializing, but most importantly, between the years of 3 and 4. Actually, I don't know. I don't know the exact time. It'll happen when it happens. But I guess what I want to do here is I just want to talk candidly to my child that doesn't exist yet. I'm not going to jump to conclusions and say, "Bam, okay, second trimester, we're done. You're gonna be born. You might not be." So I guess I'm going to start speaking in this perspective, as if, like I tried to communicate earlier, you, right? Because this is for you. Yeah, it's for you. I mean, you're in the second trimester right now, right? You might be born. I hope with all my heart that you are. Anything can happen, though. But let's say that you are born, right? I for the longest time didn't think I would ever see you. I remember in college convinced that I would adopt for many reasons. Some emotional, some biological. But there's a potential that I won't. There's a potential that you will exist. It's really high. So far you've been deemed a very healthy baby, embryo, whatever you are right now. And so let's say you're born, right? Obviously, I have all these ideas of what kind of father I'm going to be, what kind of husband I'm going to be while I'm your father. And I'm excited. I have an invested interest in you. I am a language teacher, a language researcher. I'm slowly specializing in developing methodology on how to learn second languages that mirror to the closest degree possible how you will learn your first language. And so I'm understanding that the process that you are already going through right now, I believe. Really, I'm understanding it on a scientific level, and it's fascinating. Like right now, I think you are moving a lot in my wife's belly, right? And in your mom's belly. And I'm certain that the reason you're moving a lot is because your ears have just barely started to be able to receive sound. Right? So you're receiving sound for the first time. And I think the way you're reacting to that is by moving. And so I think there's a really important thing there regarding communication. Because the sound that you're receiving right now in womb is the same sound you're going to be receiving once you're outside of the womb. And so I don't see how you're going to perceive it any differently. It's like you're going to build upon what the shape of that sound right now, but you're not going to be born and then suddenly perceive a different sound. It's going to be the same sound, just you're going to build upon it. But that step of reacting, in this case with movement, also you're going to build upon, right? And that's eventually going to turn into what will eventually be a linguistic communication between us, right? Like how I'm talking right now, you will eventually be able to talk like this. But I think it's all built upon what's happening right now. Layers, right? See, that's my invested interest. That's me trying to understand you so that I can solve a particular problem in a different location, which is adults trying to do what you're doing with a second language, right? After they've already fully developed a first. Second, third, fourth, doesn't really matter, the number. So I'm very interested in what you're going to be experiencing, but also like, just in general, our relationship, me as a father, you as my son or daughter, and eventually as a similar, like a friend or a, whatever, just how that will evolve, right? You can get so worried. I just barely finished a class with my wife, with your mom. Gosh, I can't. With your mom, about how to take care of you, like how to brush your teeth. Like apparently you, like this part right here, is really when you get born and your teeth grow, right? Your first teeth, I think they're going to start on the bottom and then the top, right? And this part right here, it's like super sensitive for you. And so, like the lady that was teaching us, they said, if you leave this class knowing only one thing, please make sure it's this, that in order for your child to not hate the experience of brushing your teeth, you need to make sure that you don't hurt this part when you brush it. Because what's going to happen is if you brush too aggressively or don't protect this little, I don't even know what it is right here, your child's going to develop this almost instinctual hatred towards anything in the mouth, right? Including a toothbrush. So there's little things like that where like you don't know what to expect, you don't know how to deal with certain things, right? And then you learn that there's this thing you didn't even know was an issue. And suddenly you're like, oh my God, I have to worry about how to brush your teeth. Because then that could turn, if I don't do it right, then there's a potential that you will then hate everything in your mouth, and so therefore you will not develop the proper habits of brushing teeth, of taking care of your mouth, which will then result in you having bad teeth, and then that'll affect you for the rest of your life. Like all this stuff, it can get on you. It can like really weigh you down because you think, well, how can I yeah, and so that kind of gets to you, right? But I don't know. I just have this romantic idea that, like, I want you to exist so bad. Like, I want you to exist so bad. But in a way that it's not so that I can have you. Like, I want you to exist so that you can exist, period. So that you are a thing in this world and you can experience it. And I can just, if you let me, experience it with you. I just want you to be in this world. And it's weird because I don't even know you. I have no clue who you are yet. Well, I have this desire for you to exist. And it makes sense because, I mean, in a sense, you are me. I mean, physically, you're half of me. And so, in a sense, me wanting you to exist is like me wanting me to exist again, to a lesser degree. So I feel like as long as that desire remains pure in that state that I just explained, as long as my desire remains pure in the I want you to exist for you, then I think it'll turn out all right. All these little things that'll worry us, we'll approach them. It's like that. We'll cross that bridge when it comes, type of thing. And I don't really need to worry about it too much right now. Yet everyone's like asks me like, what are you planning? Like they're so curious, almost to a point where it's like they're worried about how I'm going to be a father to you. And to them, and all I can say is what I just barely said, I'm going to act in a way that will first allow you to exist in this world. And it seems so, oh yeah, of course, but it is actually pretty complicated. Like, you're not existing if you're not living this life for yourself, if you're not developing yourself first and foremost. If your goal is not you, in a weirdly non-selfish way, you don't exist. You've got to my goal is to have you believe that life, the purpose of life, is to belong somewhere. That's it. The purpose of life is to belong somewhere. What this will eventually pan out to be is a never-ending process, because you will never belong anywhere 100%, so you'll always want to belong somewhere. And my goal is to teach you that to belong somewhere, you must understand your niche in wherever you want to belong. And to understand your niche and wherever you want to belong, that part of that is to understand how you, as a unique individual, can make that place where you want to belong more sustainable, better, whatever word you want to put there. Make it better than before you belonged there. So you bring yourself to it and you edify it into something that is good and better and makes everyone else who's in there and everything else in there better because of you belonging there. That's my overall goal of how I'm going to raise you, basically. That I'm not going to tell you to believe in anything other than yourself and this ideology of belonging. I believe on a level of faith that if your goal is to belong in this sense of using You're using your individuality to make a group better. You can't go wrong no matter what decision you make. It will end up being good. You're going to go through hard times. That's just the way it is. To understand who you are, you're going to go through hard times. That is the process of discovering your individuality. Is you mimic things to a degree, and then you go through like a little buffering, like really turbulent buffering, when you realize that you can't mimic anymore. You have to. Mimicry doesn't get you it can only get you so far. You have to be original to some extent, and that discovery process can be. I don't fully understand why it is a turbulent and difficult thing to do. Why it can destroy relationships, etc. I will eventually, and I'm going to learn more about this process with you as I raise you under these assumptions. The reason why I believe that this is good for you is because this is how I've raised myself. And I say that literally. I raised myself not from a child, but from I don't feel like I reached adulthood until I started raising myself. I was raised under the assumption that I was originally from a child raised under the assumption that this place where you belong doesn't exist on this earth. And so what you do on this earth isn't as important. Since it doesn't exist on this earth, your actions on the earth are only important if they get you to this place that doesn't exist on earth. And so if you want to belong in a place that doesn't exist on earth, then it really changes how you act on earth. It really limits your perspective. And it didn't work for me. I wanted to belong to locations that I could physically interact with. I wanted to belong with people that I could physically interact with. I didn't feel a desire to belong to a location where I couldn't immediately interact with. And so the idea was there. I didn't like the idea that it was a post-death location that I was striving to exist in. It just didn't make sense, and I didn't feel any gratification. And so I changed it. In order for me to belong to locations that were earthly, I had to leave the location where I was born into, physically and mentally. Because that's part of the process, the whole use your individuality to improve the location where you want to belong. It requires you to belong there mentally too. And to belong someplace mentally requires, I think that's where the turbulence comes, because you got to change who you are. You got to adopt different ideologies. You got to adopt different morals, basically, to belong to this location. And there were locations that just were morally asymmetrical, or just morally different than where I came from. Because these locations were on Earth, while where I came from, they wanted me to be on a place that wasn't Earth. It just made no sense. So I had to abandon that. And I loved it. I loved every failure and success I had on this process. So initially I wanted to belong to a society of Japanese individuals. I wanted to be accepted into a clan of Japanese people. And I failed at it, obviously. There's no way that I would belong to a clan of Japanese people. Just by my face alone, right? It took me a while to realize that, right? I thought that maybe by sounding just like them, I could belong, but it doesn't matter how well you sound. You'll never belong because of this and that, and it's not a bad thing. It's just the way it is right now, the way I currently understand it. And so I used that desire to belong to a Japanese clan, evolved into a more specific desire to belong, and more specific. And I could go through the each stage of specificity, but I'll just say that right now where I want to belong is I want to belong to a group of people that spans the entire world. Individuals that want to this may sound really selfish, but I want to belong to a group of people, a group of individuals who want to learn language the way that I want to teach it. It's really that simple. And who want to explore language the way that I want to explore it. So it has gotten very self-centered, because if I were to meet someone who explores language in a way different than me, our relationship can only go so far. There's going to be a point when we're like, our opinions will cause us to separate paths, but that's just the way it is. That's what I'm interested to see what happens with you is when those experiences happen, right? How you deal with it. I guarantee I will better understand how I can deal with it by seeing how you deal with it. The way your unique way of dealing with those forks, I guess you could say. And I'm so excited to just see how you come to realize me and your mom as your parents, because you're going to be born and just be completely ignorant to everything except for the sound of our voices, right? You won't know what a mom or dad is. You won't know what a human is. In fact, you're going to be less human than us when you're born, right? For like the first 3 months of your life, you won't even be able to sound like us on a human level, right? You mean you physically you can't. You're a little thing right here, right? It's going to be jammed up there, and your tongue just won't even be able to make vowel sounds, which is like a very important skill to sound like a human. But then you're going to be able to. It's going to drop down, and you're going to start exploring that. And I'm excited to experience that with you and explore with you, basically. It's going to be interesting to kind of revisit language again with you as I see you visit it for the very first time. But I'm really excited to see how you start to discover these differences. First, you're probably going to start discovering how we're similar, right? Because you're going to just want to become like me or your mom and then eventually you want to become like a friend. You just want to be like everyone, and then you realize that that can only get you so far, and you have to start, being yourself, develop yourself, right? So I'm excited to see how you evolve in that stage. I'm excited to just see your interest. That's probably when your interests, you'll become aware of them. We're probably going to become aware of your interests before you will, if we're keen to it, if we're sensitive enough. Like I know of some people that are quite sensitive to the unique characteristics of their babies, like even during the breastfeeding stage, right? That's an interesting thing too. When you start breastfeeding, right, you're going to start developing your very first social relationship with another human, right? Like you're going to understand that things can react to you as a result of you doing something different, right? There's just so many exciting things, right? And the fact that it's going to be happening in like just a couple of months, like right now you're due to be born in August, and right now we're in March, right? It's crazy. And so I guess this series will just kind of I've kind of like set the stage for the series is going to be. It's just going to be me kind of like riffing on my curiosities about what I've learned up to this point, and you. It's not going to be. I'm just going to talk like to you, like you exist. There's just nothing I'm really excited to do is talk with you. Like do this, but in real life. That's going to be crazy to not have a camera there anymore. To like look into the eyes of another individual. Like to know where you came from. That's nuts to think that. I have never looked into the eyes of someone who I have seen the their entire life. Every single eye that I've looked into has been someone who at some point didn't exist in my life. I mean, who at some point we never existed together. But you will exist in my life from zero to that point when I look you in the eyes and we have a conversation. Hopefully hopefully between some beers. I really hope you like beer. I really hope you like beer, and I really hope you like sausage. I mean, if you don't, that's okay. I'm not joking. It will be a little difficult. Not because it's like, oh, we can't get drunk together. It's just simply, I love him so much. It's just, it'd be really nice to kind of like share some. Well, it's just I want to share something I really, really love with you, right? So yeah, but then if you don't, right? Say you don't like beer or sausages, right? What will you like? See that right there, that makes me excited. What will you like? What is the thing that you just love? And that might help me, like that, my desire to just know that might actually help me appreciate that thing that you really, really love, right? Gin? Maybe it's gin. Maybe you don't really like alcohol. I highly doubt it. I'm pretty certain you're going to enjoy it. You're going to have an affinity towards a certain type of alcohol. I don't think you're going to be one of those unique humans that just, going to be allergic. But who knows, right? I'm not going to set myself up too much where it's like, oh, you're allergic to alcohol. It's very unlikely. Statistically, you are going to like some type of alcohol. To look into your eyes, it's going to be nuts. And to see you respond, like to see those patterns that we develop with each other, those social patterns where it's like, you can predict how I'm going to talk to you, and I can predict how you're going to talk to me and how we're going to respond to each other. Yet, the occasional surprise because of our innate human, since we're born of random mutations, those permeate throughout up from just your right now. Your existence is because of a random mutation, right? You were randomly put together by two sex cells, right? A sex cell from me and a sex cell from your mom. But the way those two things combined was completely random. So you're born from a random mutation, and so that is going to permeate and reveal itself in many different ways. But it's going to reveal itself within a landscape of predictability. I will be able to understand you to a pretty finite degree, and then occasionally you'll surprise me with something, and that's so awesome. It's exciting to see how I will be able to predict you, but then it's also how you will surprise me. And you, right? You're going to think I'm a certain way. You're going to be like, he's just my dad. That's just the way he does. And then bam, I'm going to do something you just won't expect. And it's not going to be like, I'm not going to try to do it. It's just the way it is.